Hey everyone, welcome back to the garden, or welcome if you're new here. Today I want to talk about some new plants that I brought home from the Proven Winners Roadshow. If you saw my short, you know, or my post, you know I attended the Proven Winners Roadshow in Philadelphia this past Wednesday. Today's Friday, and I got to take home a couple of plants, not necessarily to trial. Obviously, they're on a road show, so they bring a lot of plants with them. They don't necessarily want to bring them back to Michigan, so they try to give away as many as possible. Now, obviously, I was not going to bring back annuals, although they had some pretty gorgeous annuals. They did have some nice perennials too, but there's no perennials that I really need right at the moment. But I did managed to snag a couple of shrubs that we're going to use in our garden, and I'll talk to you a little bit about them and where we're going to use them. And since working in the garden center industry for the last few years, I've come across a product that I'm going to use today to protect some plants. It's not something I'd ever heard of before, but we use it extensively at the garden center. So I'm going to show you that. I'm not going to use it on every single plant I'm looking to protect because some of them are just fine. But maybe this is a product that you'll be able to use in your gardens. So come garden with me today and let's talk about protecting plants and some gorgeous new shrubs. Something else I want to do today too is get rid of the rest of our fall annuals. Some of them are still great, but some of them, they're definitely past peak. And I think we can actually use the Goshiki holly that we bought for our side garden out front of our gate in a couple of the containers where I've pulled a zinnia out that was rather large. I think we can actually drop a Goshiki in there. And I think we might be able to use a Goshiki in one of the other containers that has a zinnia, because some of the containers are quite large and the Goshikis are quite small. So let's take care of that first. And I know you all want to get to the new plants, and I don't blame you, but here are the containers, and you can see the mums are okay. And the asters, they might last. You're supposed to warm up a little bit. I mean, I don't expect them to flower again, but they look okay. This is where the zinnia was, so I feel like we can drop this Goshiki holly in because it isn't quite a small container. I did not get this at the garden center. I brought this home from Lowe's. You know, they have those little holiday evergreens at this time of the year. This container, I feel like, can be emptied completely. Obviously, the peppers, they're done. Celosia is quite frazzled. This is an aster. I don't know that I'm going to use this pot for the other Goshiki holly or not, but we'll see because we have some pots on the container or containers on our patio as well that might work. This is a heliotrope that we planted, my gosh, probably back in June, May, June, I don't know. And a salvia that we just planted September, late August, early September maybe. And the heliotrope, where the cloche was most tight, it's actually still green, but let's face it, it's a summer annual. It's time to go. And then here are a couple other pots. And you can see what I mean by, I don't know, these petunias, they're still looking really good. This celosia are definitely tropicals. Not looking salvageable at all, but I think just to get us through Thanksgiving, I'm actually going to keep this here. I might put another one of those cloches over it. The aster and the celosia here can go, and I might as well, I don't know, the mum still looks halfway decent. We'll see. Here's another zinnia. So this is the other larger container that I feel like if I can get the zinnia out, we can pop that Goshiki right in there. Because I think, yeah, that's the biggest. Cabbages are still looking good. Obviously, those will go through the winter. In theory, they look fine. In theory, meaning depending on what kind of a winter you have. So we'll leave those. All right, you can see I removed all the annuals from here. I tried not to make a mess. That's nearly impossible because I was trying to save some of the soil. I might want to transplant these two cabbages into one of these containers because right now it's just in plastic. And I don't think they will last in there for very long. But let me just put the one Goshiki holly there so I can see what it looks like. Although I still don't think this container is big enough. Well, it might be. Do I want two here or do I want one here and one over on the patio? I think I want 2 here. So we'll see.
I have set my sights on a summer evening where we can watch the sky chase the morning. Us under the stars, you fall into my arms. There's no one else I'd rather be here with. And in the end, I'll be here when I feel your light warming up my skin. And in good time, we'll make our lives.
So in case you're not aware, Goshiki False Holly, these are evergreen, evergold, whatever you want to call them. Beautiful variegated foliage. They're an osmanthus, and they are 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. I do feel like in time they can get bigger than that, but they're kind of slow growing. Transplant anytime into a large container or flower bed. Feed with a slow release fertilizer. It says not hardy in zones 1 through 6. We're in 7A. I got burned last year doing this, but again, those plants were not acclimated. These have been in Pennsylvania. Well, if they were at Lowe's, at least a few weeks. They've been in our garage for about a week. I guess we'll see. I don't want to get burned again, but I do want some evergreen interest here on the deck for winter. And we can't plant these because the bed is not ready. I'm not going to be using any fertilizer. I don't want them to push new growth. Nicely rooted, but some of the root ball did come out. I guess this could be useful. I'll clean this all up later. We do have some mulch in the garage that I brought home a couple weeks ago. We mulched some areas that I cleaned up that we had not mulched this year at all. And I have an extra bag. Put some mulch over this to retain moisture and to keep it a little bit warmer over the winter. It's a little bit tighter in this pot, even though it's a bigger pot, because I have 3 annuals in here that I don't really want to remove just yet. This one didn't lose any of its root ball. There we go. Some of this mud's wet, so it's not coming up. I'm hoping the rain will take care of that tonight. I didn't transplant this. I kind of wanted to put it in there. I think it'll be too difficult because that pot is still a little small. So for now, they'll stay there. I do like the way the Goshikis look in this pot. I still need to take the tags off, but kind of makes me want to get more, but we don't need any more. Okay, guys, it's the next day, so I apologize if things might look a little bit different. My neighbor started her tractor up yesterday to mow her leaves, and there was no way for me to talk over that. So let's finish this up. Last thing I wanted to say about the Goshiki Holly that I am overwintering, and then we'll move on to the plants that I got from the roadshow, is that once we're done, you can see them back there behind me. Once we're done with all of the annuals, so the aster and the mum in this one, and some of the ones over on the patio steps, I might move this Goshiki closer to the center of this container so that it has even more insulation around its roots. It'll have more soil because the diameter of the root ball is much smaller than this container. And I might actually move this Goshiki into the bigger container. It's the same look, it's just bigger, that the zinnia came out of over on our patio steps for the same reason. It's really no problem to overwinter plants in containers. We did it successfully in 2023, and they're all now planted out into our landscape. The success rate depends greatly on your container and your plant. So they should be 2 zones hardier than where you live. So I'm in a zone 7. So technically, if I'm going to overwinter plants in containers, they should be hardy down to zone 5. These Goshikis are only hardy to 7. Which is why I have them in heavy frost-free containers. I want to move them to make them as insulated as possible. There's just no telling with how the winter's weather is going to be. Like last year, we lost plants overwintering them in containers, even though they were hardy, because our weather got so cold so fast and we never quite came out of that. So technically, you should be fine. Just seems like the weather is so unpredictable anymore, so just keep that in mind. That's why I didn't spend a lot of money on these. I could have gotten bigger ones at the garden center where I worked and spent 3 times the price. But I knew we weren't going to get these into the ground. They're just going to be overwintered in containers. So that's why I went with the Lowe's option, and I think I paid 17 bucks each. Okay, now I'm going to show you the plants that I'm going to use in the garden next year that I brought home from the roadshow. So here they are. And only one of these is technically new, the hedge box. That's coming in garden centers in 2026, so next year. So it's a Japanese holly. It is, what makes it special is that, well, first of all, it's dense. Almost like a sky pencil holly. Sky pencil hollies are very dense. I'll show you what these are going to replace in our current garden and how those are not dense. So you get to see exactly how much denser and fuller all the way to the base this plant is. It is 4 to 7 tall, 2 to 3 wide, hardy 5 to 9. Part to most sun. I would say this one's most sun. It's a Japanese holly, is space saving, and it's pest and disease resistant. What makes this so pest and disease resistant is they're calling this a alternative to a boxwood, although it grows slightly different than most boxwoods because the leaves are flat. A lot of leaves on boxwoods are cupped. Spider mites love to hide in those little cups. So these are really pest resistant because of that. Spider mites have no place to hide in here. I think these are also pretty leaf miner resistant as well. I think I remember them mentioning that at the roadshow. You can see kind of how they grow. They actually even grow much more dense than a sky pencil holly. So I'll show you where we're going to use those in a minute. And again, you'll be able to see why I'm going to go with this. We have them coming into the garden center in the spring, which is why I chose this plant, even though there's only one of them, and I need 3. And then I'll bring home a couple more from the garden center in the spring. And then this is the Let's Dance Lovable. This is a reblooming big leaf hydrangea. The only reason why I chose this one is because of the color. Look at the color of the fall foliage. It really stood out in the conference room where we were. And I'll show you in a minute again where we're going to use this one. It's mostly going to be pink for us. Take a look at the stats on this one. So 4 to 6 hours, 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, hardy 5 through 9. It's Easy to fall for the rich, luscious flower colors of Let's Dance Lovable hydrangea, but what you'll really love is its abundant blooms and supercharged ability to rebloom. So I'll show you in a second where this one's going to go. So I know it's tough to see because the shrub is dormant now. It's defoliated, but this is a vitex. This is a chase tree from Proven Winners. I cannot remember the variety. I will put that up on the screen. I don't think it's staying here. As a matter of fact, I know it's not staying here. We have two of them. This one and then this one over here, which I think this is going to be a bear to remove, but that one's coming out as well, probably as well. The blue arrow juniper. I have different ideas of what I want to do over there, but I feel like this might be a good location for the Let's Dance Lovable. Let's Dance Lovable is a 4x4, and it will appreciate the shade that it will get in there in the summer, especially when the black tulip magnolia is in bloom. So yeah, I feel like that could work there. Again, I think this is going to be a bear to get out in this location. I think we'll have to root prune that. And I think a hydrangea would be nice there because this hydrangea we're definitely getting rid of. This is one of those, you know, Lowe's buys that they are forced to bloom for Mother's Day so that they look really pretty. And since we've moved it back here, you can see it's always struggled, right? Look, it's full of black spot. Did a video on cleaning up this all last year. It hasn't bloomed in years. And it is about the size of the Let's Dance Lovable. So I feel like we move that. I honestly would like a set of steps going from our deck to our patio at some point. So it only makes sense to remove. I know it's going to be tough to remove because Rob does not like to get rid of anything, but I honestly don't think we have any place for that, but we'll see. So we can replace that with a beautiful Let's Dance Lovable down here. And because for us it will be pink, it will match the Wee Bit Innocent that are in this bed already. You can see we have 3 Wee Bit Innocent hydrangeas here. So I think that's the perfect spot for that. Okay, now let's go over to the west side of the house and I'll show you where I think we can use the hedge box. So over here we have 3 Ilex Crenata Skybox. You can see 2 there. I'll get closer. And 1 here. And you can see just how much different it is from the hedge box. And it does have pretty black berries. They get to be about 4 to 6 feet tall. 2 to 3 wide. Sorry, showing you all our infrastructure there. But there's 1 here. And there's 1 here. I did talk about these in, I think, a video. I don't know if it was earlier this year or last year. I would like to replace these. We tried pruning the tops off, see if we could get them to fill out. And they honestly have. They have filled out a little bit. They're just not growing in the manner in which they were advertised. Oh my gosh, look. 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 is still blooming. How pretty. 3rd week of November. So they're not growing the way they were advertised to grow in a tight hedge. You know, I don't want anything here that was going to get too tall to block our window, but I did want an evergreen interest here on the side of our house. I think these are the first evergreens we planted here. But they just don't grow as expected, and I'll talk to you about why I think the hedge blocks would be better here. So I think you can see why I think the hedge box will be better there. It's marketed as just a much quicker, denser growing version of the skybox. So very similar growth habits. I think the hedge box can get a little bit bigger. But, you know, I just want something fuller there. And I think the hedge box is going to fit the bill. Now, there were a lot of beautiful shrubs at the roadshow I could have come home with. I would have loved to have gotten my hands on. There was 1 reminiscent coral rose in full beautiful bloom. I would love to have brought that back, but I don't know where we would have put that. I also could have come home with a couple of North Pole arborvitae because I think in the 3-gallon containers, they're about 3 feet tall. And I think they would have looked really nice in urns out front for the winter. But first of all, I didn't want to be greedy. There was a lot of other people there who could have taken some of these shrubs home too. We don't have North Pole arborvitae anywhere on our property, so I didn't want to bring two home, even though I could have used them for the winter and then have to figure out where to plant them. I'm not a huge fan of the mature North Pole arborvitae. I don't like the way they look when they're, say, 5, 6, 7 years old. They tend to get 2 central leaders and then split, and they're not deer resistant. So this is just my thoughts. All right, now let's talk about this product that I'm going to use to protect some of my evergreens this winter. And I know this is going to look backwards to you, but it's Wilt Stop. Also comes in a brand called Wilt Proof. So this is an all-natural product, and maybe you guys have heard of this before. Maybe you've even used it to stop your evergreens from desiccating in the winter. It is a resin. It is from pine trees. It's just active ingredient is pinene, which is a pine resin. It is extremely, extremely sticky. So what it does, and I can show you here on the hedge box, and I'm going to actually show you a video I did for a social media account at the garden center. So to get a bigger picture. Now it's going to be this way because I did it for Instagram and Facebook. YouTube goes this way, but you'll still get the same idea. So all you do, I don't even think you need to shake it. You just need to spray your evergreens until they're dripping. Hey everyone, it's the time of the year when you should consider using wilt proof on your evergreens, as you see staff member Matt doing here. Why do we use wilt proof on our evergreens? Because they can lose moisture through their leaves and stems via a natural process called transpiration. They can normally replace this water through their roots, but 2 main winter conditions make this impossible: frozen ground and harsh winter winds. So you'll want to use wilt proof, and you'll want to make sure that you are drenching the leaves or the needles of your evergreens. For newly planted evergreens, I think the process might be slightly different, like they have to have hardened off for a few months. I'm going to use it on our newly planted American Pillar arborvitae because they're so small and they just went in the ground, 2 months ago? And we are still a little bit dry. We've gotten rain, but we still are a little bit dry. I'm also going to use it on my sweet box because that desiccated really, really badly last year. And I don't know if that will desiccate this year, but it isn't in a protected location. Now with sweet box, the guidance is you should plant them in a protected location, even if they're hardy in your zone. We just got really cold and windy last year really fast. And I think that, and we were really dry, and I think that's why that desiccated. Right now I have it covered in a cloche, but I'm going to use this. Again, it is an anti-desiccant. We recommend it to people in the garden center for any newly planted evergreens, whether they're broadleaf or whether they're needled evergreens. But again, you want to spray it till the plant is dripping. And like I said, I'm being distracted because I see some new growth on the hedge box here. So I'm going to give this a try, see if it works. Let me know. Have you heard of this before? Even when I worked at the nursery in 2023, I had never heard of this. It wasn't until I started working at a garden center that I came across this product. I just used it on all of the swags, the evergreen swags and wreaths and pine roping we made at the garden center, just to stop them from drying out for our customers who buy them. So here you can see the sweet box. Since it got really cold really fast again, a couple of times the last couple of weeks, I put it under one of these cloches, but this kind of stunts the growth a little bit. I'm going to take it out, get some of that moisture off, get these leaves out of here. I should be wearing gloves because, like I said, after using this at the garden center the other day, it is very, very, very sticky. So you can see how it's coated and it's dripping. Can you see that drip? That's how you use this. You want your plant to be coated well and dripping in order to protect it over the winter. Again, this is not something that I would normally use on my evergreens. I've never used it before. These are so newly planted and we have been so dry. And I don't know if you can tell, but these are already a little bit desiccated. They came to us a little bit desiccated. I just want to make sure that these have the best chance of survival if we should have a really cold, windy winter again. Never paid too much attention because, well, up until 2-3 years ago, we really weren't planting evergreens in mass, but we've planted a lot of evergreens in the last couple of years. Again, I want to give them the best chance of survival, especially going into winter if it's dry. Evergreens will continue to draw moisture from the ground over the winter, but if you've been in a drought like we have, obviously they can't take up that moisture, and then the winds will desiccate they'll lose moisture right through their needles or their leaves. If they're a broadleaf, that's what we want to avoid. You can also get this in concentrate. Using this spray bottle is a little less than ideal, but I just wanted to give it a try first. So obviously you saw me up there. I sprayed 5 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 and the sweet box up there. Then I came down here and did the hedge box. I did our 3 new boxwoods here, although not as heavily as I did the 𝗟𝗡s. These are a little bit more protected than they are up there. I did our 3 new Donica 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 here just because they're so newly planted. And our newest, where is it? I think I forgot this one, but we did plant another Anna's Magic Ball up at the very front of this bed, and because that is in a really open and vulnerable location, and this space is northwest where the brutal winter winds come from. That's why I sprayed this, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. Right there. So again, why did I spray these shrubs? Well, because they're newly planted and we have been so dry. If you have shrubs that have been established for a couple of years now and you've gotten regular rainfall, you should not have to do this. The only thing you might want to spray on a regular basis is something like a skip laurel, especially if you have them planted in a location that is exposed. Skip laurel, even when they are established, have a tendency to desiccate, especially in the drying winter winds, which is why you want to use this product. That's the key. Dry ground and desiccating winds. And some plants, evergreens, are just more prone to dry out in the winter than others. New plants that are planted when it's in a drought, and exposed plants, especially when they're new. So just keep that in mind. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment below and I'll answer for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the shrubs that I came home with from the Proven Winners Roadshow, and I'll keep you posted in another video about some of the new plants that are going to be coming to market in 2026. Some of them I think are even 2027. But again, thanks for coming along. I hope you enjoyed, and happy Thanksgiving to all of those who celebrate, who are my US viewers. Oh, and one other thing, I'd like to thank my local viewer who stopped into the garden center just to see if it was me she saw on YouTube, and of course it was. Thank you. I really appreciate your stopping in. I love that you love my channel. But thanks again. I really do appreciate it, and happy Thanksgiving. Bye.